Hey everybody, it's JJ Conway. I want to welcome you to our third Thursday. This is one of my favoriteest things to talk about. That's right, it's time for Real Estate Investing 101. And today's topic is Foreclosure Investing 101. Foreclosure investing is something that anybody can get started with in real estate, and you can start making money as soon as you can find a way to put these things I'm going to teach you today into practice and start making money, y'all. Okay, now listen. We're going to cover a little bit of basics today. I got a few announcements today, but we're going to be talking about foreclosure consulting. That is how you can help people who are facing foreclosure, how you can help them, help yourself, and help somebody else, possibly a third party, creating the win-win-win. And y'all know I love the triple win. Okay. The reason that this is so effective is because when done ethically, foreclosure consulting allows you to help people out of a bad situation while building wealth for yourself. So I'm so excited. Oh, wait. That rhymes. Building wealth for yourself. Okay. That doesn't really go anywhere for me because it's just part of the process, but it is important to me that so many of us have big hearts and we want to make a difference in the world. And we sometimes feel like the only way we can make a difference is at our own expense. And I like to say we can make a difference at our own profit. We're profiting, they're profiting, everybody's profiting, win, win, win. All right. So we're going to be talking about foreclosure consulting. And before I get into it, I do have a few announcements. All right. So our agenda for today, we're going to talk about some upcoming events. Y'all, I have been a little bit remiss on my upcoming Juneteenth conference, but I need your help to fill this room, y'all. I'm so excited for the conference. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Foreclosure Consulting 101, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to dig deeper because let's be real. There is no way I can possibly give you years of experience with foreclosure consulting in just 1 hour, maybe 90 minutes if people ask questions, right? I'm not going to be able to pour all of that into you today. And not everybody who comes to a 101 class wants to dig deeper like that. So we're going to keep this at the wave tops. We're going to hit the high points. But if you want to dig deeper, I've got an opportunity coming up for you. Not this Saturday, because my big boy, my young man, will be home from college. But next Saturday, we're going to be doing a workshop in the morning. You can jump in there, learn this stuff, and then we can, if you really, really resonate with it, we're going to even have opportunities for you to dig even deeper with getting the contracts, getting the paperwork, all the things you need to be successful. All right. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. All right. So we're going to talk today about foreclosure consulting. By way of announcements, sorry, y'all. By way of announcements, if you are in the greater Stephenville area, I do want you to join us for our domino toppling party on the last day of school, which is Thursday the 22nd. So school gets out for my little guy, gets out at about 1:20, and our party starts at 2. We're going to have pizza, we're going to have games, we're going to have domino toppling, and this facility we're going to be in, the Chillaxin Inn, it has all kinds of free play video games, air hockey, all the good stuff. So you want to be there. All right. The next announcement that I want to make is that our Juneteenth Legacy Authors Portal is open. I do realize that the deadline is this week, right? So the deadline is, I do believe, the 18th to give me your writing. So if you don't already have something written, this is probably not for you this year. But listen, a lot of us already have something written. We've got something that's been on our heart that we want to contribute. We've accomplished something, and we've just never felt like we had a venue to get that out to the world. This is your opportunity to join in our Voices of Legacy anthology so that you will be able to be a participant in this historic anthology. I know it's last minute. I know it's my fault it's last minute. I dragged the timelines out as long as I possibly could, but we do have, if we want it published by Juneteenth, we do need to have your manuscript next week. And so it can be as short as a little quick blurb. They can be as long as a 2,000-word chapter. And here's a cool thing. Listen. I know when people talk about anthologies, they want to charge you thousands of dollars to be in one. Well, we have a great deal for you. How do you like free? How would you like to tell your story, get in our anthology absolutely free? Yes, you can do a quick story absolutely free. Now, if you have more details like me, or you're more verbose like me, or you like to write and talk more like me, yes, you are going to have a little bit of fee. But go now to juneteenthauthor.com and you will be able to find this same portal that will take you to all the details of how you can participate. Okay. We also have the Juneteenth Legacy Speakers Portal. I will admit up front that I do need to update a few things on this because last year we let the speakers also submit into the anthology, and it just caused a lot of confusion. So if you see anything in there about the book, you either better hurry up and get that in or ignore it because we split it out this year. Okay. And so I'm so excited for Juneteenth, y'all. Now, if you're in Stephenville and you're in Erath or you're in rural Texas and you're wondering why I care so much about it, you're going to have to go to last week and watch the training we did after the training. So we did our main Thursday night training. And then after that training, I gave an author's update. And I talked to you about why I'm so passionate about honoring the legacy of Juneteenth and what it means, whether or not it's a holiday, right? Like we've been doing this since before it was a holiday. I understand they want to take it away and not have it be a holiday. That makes no difference to me. What matters to me is the what happened on Juneteenth and how that still reverberates in our culture today and what we can do about it to rise above. Okay. So in any event, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter to me. It does matter to me. But you know what? Every time somebody gives you something, they always got their hand taking something behind their back. And so you just want to be careful about that. Okay, I'm going to stop digging that hole even deeper, and I'm going to get to my next announcement. Okay. I am not. Oh, this is hilarious. I am not making it. I want to assure you, I have not made this mistake again. I don't know how many of you remember from last year. Like I put the swag boxes out there and made them free. And it was like, and I guess everybody's bing, 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 free radar went off because they came in and was like, yep, I'm getting my free $40 box. Okay. Anywho. All right. So we did not make that mistake again, but you can participate in the conference and you can join us live in Fort Worth. We are going to kick off in the morning with Opal's Walk for Freedom, commemorating her walks that she did from town to town to lobby for Juneteenth to become a holiday. We are also going to incorporate some of the events of the first ever Freedom Vibes Festival put on by the National Juneteenth Museum, which will be opening up soon. All right. So some of their events have been added as optional events to our conference. We are not collecting funds for those. You got to go to that directly, but we are adding some of that in. All right. And it's going to be a good time. You know, it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good celebration of people who have been able to pull themselves up. You know, everybody wants to talk about pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But some people's boots are stuck in the mud and the mire, and it's a little bit more difficult to pull themselves up. But people are able to make it work, and that's what this conference talks about. How do you build wealth in a culture that systemically tries to prevent you from doing so? Okay. And I can already feel it. I can already feel it in my bones. I've already lost several subscribers from Stephenville, Texas, but that's okay. You know what? It's life. And I don't know. I got to a point where I was trying to really not bring out a whole lot of the advocacy and things like that I did because I wanted to have peace for my kid and peace for my household and peace for the town that I live in. But like my kid already doesn't have peace. He already gets called names, racial slurs and things like that. And we already have like almost every day it's another story. And it's just like, okay, where do the kids come up? Like they come up, y'all, these kids come up with the craziest, most unique ways to use a racial slur. Okay. But at least it's not like Louisiana when my oldest was in private school and he came home singing a song about the KKK. And I was like, do you even know what you're singing? And he said, no, this is just something all the kids at school are singing. And I was like, do you know what the KKK is? Y'all, there are two moments that I felt like a failure as a Black parent is when my sixth grader at the time did not know what the KKK was. And when he narrated, y'all, we sold it and we made plenty of money for his college fund. The book from Dr. Boyce Watkins, It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. And the first iteration, my boy, my strong young Black man who is on his way home at this very moment, reads about Dr. Dre. Yep. I'm surprised I still have a Black card. Anyway, so for me, it's very important that I make a life that's better for my children. And what's happening in the world today maybe doesn't affect us here in Erath County where I'm living right now, but it affects people I know and love and care about. People who are scared to walk down the street and who are carrying their papers and afraid that even with their papers, they will still be detained because they are Black or brown. And so for me, this is, people who have lost their jobs with no reason and no recourse. Wow, I was not going to get into this until after my class. So I guess if you are in the class today, hang tight. I'm going to land that Juneteenth plane and we're going to get right into foreclosure consulting. But you know what, though? You need to know who you are learning from. See, I didn't start my real estate investing out here in with all the land and all the properties. Okay. I started my real estate investing in the DC area, in Baltimore City, in Prince George's County, in Charles County. Okay. That's where I started my real estate investing. And the issues that people face there is different than the issues that people face here. I was telling some folks today, we had a group of the ministers and we had a wonderful, wonderful presentation from a group called Homelessness Help, who are trying to eradicate. Y'all, we have 50 something homeless children going to our public high school, and the school's got what? Maybe the whole district's got like 3,000 kids. I mean, it's a rural area. It's not that many kids, right? Like when I was in California, my graduating class was going to be 3,000 people. I was only there for a year and a half. I ended up moving to upstate New York, but my graduating class at Victor Valley, I think it was like 3,000 people. That's more kids than the whole district here. And so they're trying to do something about that. But when they started to talk, I started to talk about creating pathways for home ownership, and people kind of looked at me like they didn't understand what I was talking about. So then I said, okay, let me draw it out. I bought this house, somebody else bought this house, somebody else bought that house, and we bought the block and we turned those houses around. We bought them for $3,000 to $5,000. We put money into them, and then now we created pathways for home ownership. And some of our tenants did buy the properties from us. Some of our rent to own owner finance. Some of our tenants didn't, but either way, all of us made our money and then some, like 10 times the money we put into those properties. And then the people who are in the properties now have an opportunity to elevate their lives through home ownership, which they previously couldn't afford to do. And what it really takes to change communities, I'm not saying go broke to change communities. I'm saying somebody has to take the lead. Somebody has to say, you know what? It's time out for just profit. It's time to leave a legacy. And I'm here to show you how to leave a legacy and profit. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now that I've done run off all my rural Texas people, talking about Juneteenth, talking about why this is important to me, let's go ahead and talk about foreclosure consulting. Sometimes, and this is going to sound bad, but sometimes, never mind. I'm not even going to say that. Let me just get into this because I'm already 15 minutes in and I haven't even started yet, y'all. But some of y'all know what I was about to say, and that's what you're here for. You're here. It's like, let me give you another example. Let's just look, we already done been offensive. Let's go all the way in on the offense. Okay. Now, if you are listening to this as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I'm sure I'm going to use this as a podcast for something. I don't know what we would title it yet, but I do want to encourage you to join us on Thursday nights because we do these classes live. You can ask your questions live. You can get your answers live. You can watch my smiling face live on my YouTube, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, all that at JJ Knows the Way. All right. Now, since I've already busted the offensive barrier, I'm going to tell you a story about somebody who really, he says he didn't mean to do this. Okay. He says he didn't mean to do this. It just kind of happened that way. I might as well name him because when I name his conference, you're going to know who I'm talking about. So I did an interview a couple years back with a guy named Ken Krell, Krell. And he puts on events and he teaches people how to put on profitable events. And so they have a phenomenal business model. And so if you're interested in that kind of a thing, go out there and take a look at my interview with him from maybe 2 years ago. But one of the things that he does is he calls his conference Pride. It's like produce ridiculously something. What does the I stand for? It's ridiculously profitable events is basically what it is, whatever the acronym Pride is for. And he said, when you set up your event, if you already know that people are going to be offended about what it is you offer, something in your past, your background, your ethnicity. In my case, a lot of times the biggest offense that a lot of people have is my religion and the fact that Jesus Christ is my Lord, right? And so that's the biggest offense that people have for me. Like I used to speak on some really high access channels. And when I when I showed my little mug, my new mug, hey, look at my new mug, Jesus is Lord. I wasn't even thinking, I wasn't even thinking, hey, I need to be neutral on this platform. I'm just like, look at my new mug, y'all. It has Cash is King, Jesus is Lord. I'm like all happy about my new mugs. Y'all, I got canceled so quick. But you know what, though? The Lord didn't call me to speak to people who don't want to hear what I have to say. Right. And so what he was saying is when you have events that or you have an audience and you want to make sure that people in your audience are going to respect your views and your boundaries and the views and boundaries of the people who are naturally attracted to you, he said you should build in that, whatever that is, into your event because it becomes a natural filter. And it pushes people away who do not want to be engaged in business with you. Now, and I raise my hand and I'm like, well, is that why you named your event Pride? And he was like, huh? And I was like, is that why you named your event Pride? Because a lot of the people that were involved, I mean, I came for the business acumen, okay? But I noticed a lot of the people who participated in the conference, helped run the conference, were LGBTQ, and so, it was just like one of those, like, is this why you named your event Pride? And for him, it was the pride with the lion and everything. And he was like, no, that's not it at all. And I was like, well, it certainly does that. So if you have an event or if you have something that you want to do and you keep getting people that aren't a good fit, it's a good idea to then take a look at what you're doing and see if there are some ways you can build in some of those qualifiers. Okay. So I did not mean to do that when I started this off with Juneteenth. I just wanted to have the announcement out there, but since it happened, and I might as well continue on that business lesson. And then I'm going to talk about once I get enough to make a podcast on this topic, which is about 5 more minutes, then I'm going to go into foreclosure consulting. All right. But since we're on the topic, we need to understand. We need to understand that people are going to be offended. Somebody is going to be offended at you no matter what you do or what you try to not do. People are offended at you if you do. People are offended at you if you don't. If you if you push forward and you speak up and you wave the banner, then you are too brazen and you are too loudmouth and you are too critical. But if you say nothing, well, then now you're a yes man or a yes woman, and you're just passive. Like, you cannot win for losing. So if the system, if the hierarchy of humanity, or at least the hierarchy of American culture, is set up to make you feel like no matter what you do, you cannot win, then please, sir, please, ma'am, don't worry about offending people. Now, the Bible does say the person who wins souls must be wise, okay? But I beg you to think about what wise means. Wise does not mean we don't ever speak up. Jesus himself overturned the money changers' tables in the temple because they had turned God's house into a den of thieves. If Jesus had been there like, well, I don't like this, I'm just going to pray for them. Lord, you see what they're doing. Lord, do something about it. Like, if that's what Jesus modeled for us, then I could understand. But you know what? Not only did Jesus not model that for us, but also you might note, if you are a student of the Bible, that the very person who tended to act brashly without thinking sometimes was the very person that Jesus said he was going to build, that you are the rock, I'm going to build my church upon, this doctrine that you have just revealed, because the Spirit revealed it to you. And in some churches, they look at Peter as the rock, and our church teaches that it's the doctrine that Jesus is Lord. But still, Peter was a pivotal key leader in the foundation of the church. You know who wasn't a pivotal key leader in the foundation of the church? Somebody you haven't heard of because they never took a stand for nothing. They were too afraid. People who were too afraid of being offensive, people who were too afraid to stand up, people who were too afraid to voice what the Lord had given them to say, those people aren't even in the Bible. The Bible does not say, and the Lord blessed so-and-so, 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 because they had so much faith that they kept their mouth shut, played small, and didn't rock the boat. That is not what the Bible says. In fact, if I go through the list, y'all, I'm not going to start preaching here today because y'all came for a real estate class, and we're going to get to the real estate class. And if you're listening onto the podcast, I'm going to do that real estate class on the next podcast. But my Bible, when it goes through the faith worthies were not people who played small. They weren't people who kept their mouth shut because you are going to get mad at them and you're not going to invite them to the fellowship anymore. Now, did some of them have some issues? Like, did Abraham lie because he didn't want them to know Sarah was his wife? They were afraid he was going to be killed so they could take Sarah. So he lied and said that she was his sister. And then of course he gets chastised for it. The Lord chastises, but then he walks away with so much wealth. I guess the next time it happens, he's like, well, it worked the first time and the Lord had mercy the first time. I would not advocate that. Okay. But listen, people who are successful move out. People who are successful understand that we have to take risks. And sometimes that risk is opening your mouth and being willing to offend, or opening your mouth and being willing to challenge, or opening up your mouth and being willing to be bold about what's on your heart when everybody else is trying to pretend that everything is okay. Some of us have been called to higher heights in the Lord and in community service and in our businesses, which our businesses, honestly, if you stop and think about it, there's a great book. Oh, no, I don't have it with me. I do have it in my Kindle. The Richest Man in Babylon. Doing well in business, for many of us, is our Father's business. Because when we do well in business, we impact communities, we impact the world, we impact ourselves, we impact our families, we impact the church. If all of God's people were broke, there wouldn't be anybody who had the Holy Ghost to give to the Lord. I want you to hear me when I say this. Yes, there are seasons of lack. Yes, there are seasons of struggle. Yes, there are seasons of humility and humbling ourselves. Like, every day we should be humbling. We should be taking our talents and humbling ourselves before the Lord. However, that does not mean that everybody who believes in the Lord should be broke. because somebody's got to pay for the building fund. Somebody's got to fund the ministry. Somebody's got to buy the soup that we feed to the hungry. And yes, the word says that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. But the Bible also gives a blueprint for the wealthy on how to give their wealth and what to do with it and how to be wealthy and still stay saved. And in my book, the good book, my favorite book, all these different translations behind me, if the Lord put it in his book and gave us a blueprint, then that tells me somebody's got to have wealth. And it might as well be you, and it might as well be me. All right? So I don't want you to be afraid to offend today. Okay, I don't want you to be afraid today. And I believe, look, I'm going to do like Paul did. There were certain places in the Bible where Paul says, this is not the Lord speaking. This is me speaking, but I got the Holy Ghost. So I think this is good for you. This is not the Lord. I'm not walking in a prophetic word right now. I'm just telling you as one person who loves the Lord to another. I do believe that it's time for you to take your place amongst the financial leadership of God's kingdom. It's time for you to build that business. It's time for you to step out on that faith. It's time for you to write that book. It's time for you to produce that course. It's time for you to take up the banner and go forward in whatever it is that God has called you to do. And if it steps on some people's toes, so be it. If it offends some people, so be it. If the Lord told you to say it, say it. If the Lord told you to pray it, pray it. If the Lord told you to sing it, sing it. If the Lord told you go sit down next to somebody and don't say anything, go sit down next to somebody and don't say anything. Now, y'all know that's hard for me. Because I just want to say something, right? But there's been so many times where I've seen somebody, like when we used to have the church in the mall, and I would just walk around the mall, and there'd be so many times where I would see somebody sitting down, and the Lord would tell me, just go sit next to him. Just go sit next to him. And then he would do all the work. He would do all the ministering. He would do all the. And some of us need to go and step out on faith. We're so afraid of offending people. We're so afraid of nobody's going to like us. You know what's the worst thing that happens if nobody likes you? They don't like you. You go find other people. Okay? So I know that's not going to be well received by everybody, but somebody needed to hear that. And that's not for everybody. I think it's for most of the people that are watching me or listening to my podcast, but it may not be for you today. You have to work that out between you and the Lord. Like I was joking with a friend of mine the other day. She's learning how to stop being so petty, and I'm trying to learn how to be just a little bit more petty. Anyway, okay. I think we've wrapped up that topic pretty well. If you are listening to me on the podcast, again, Ladies of Wealth podcast, make sure you join us Thursday nights. And the next podcast that you hear, the next one's going to be on real estate investing. I hope that you will enjoy that and that you will participate in our real estate investing. But for now, let me go ahead and sign off on that part, and we'll get into our next class. Okay, so hello again. It's JJ again. I'm going to be talking to you today about foreclosure investing. Yes. Now, I like to make 2 promises with every training that I do. The first promise is that you can go out tonight and you can put what I'm teaching to use. Now, how fast that translates into money in your pocket, well, that's between you, your God, and your ability to do some elbow grease. All right. Now, if you have questions that I can't answer tonight or that are too advanced for this 101 level class, I will give you an opportunity to dig deeper. Because one of the things that happens is, we cover a wide range of topics on our Thursday night classes. And so I like to hit really the high points so that people can decide, do they want to dig deeper? There's no way I can put 10 years worth of real estate investing information, a foreclosure consulting information into one little 1 hour, maybe 90-minute course. Okay. So there's always going to be an opportunity to dig deeper. And I'm just going to be upfront with y'all. Okay. I'm going to be upfront with y'all. When you come to that workshop, the 2-hour workshop, if you really, really want to do this and you're like, oh yeah, now that she's walked me through all the different things that I need to do on this, if you really want to get into action, I'm going to offer you even more of an opportunity to dig deeper, because the deeper training is going to come with the scripts you need, and the what do you call them? The contracts. Okay, let me say that again. Okay, we are going to have an opportunity for you to dig deeper on this class with a 2-hour workshop on the 31st, Saturday morning. Okay, if this is really like your jam and you're like, I'm going to do this, we're going to have an opportunity for you to purchase a package that's going to give you the forms you need, the contracts, and all those kinds of things. In our workshop, we'll go through scripts, we'll do role play, and we'll get you comfortable with the idea that you can go out and make money with foreclosure consulting. What I'm doing today is just a top of the waves overview of how the process works, so you can decide whether or not you want to join us on that Saturday morning workshop. All right. All right. All right. Before we get deeper into it, if you want to ask a question, please put them in the comments. You can go to askjjc.com. If you have an anonymous question, you know what? I'm going to actually edit this slide on the fly, because we also have our Ladies of Wealth podcast, and you can actually go to ladiesofwealth.com. And did that show up there? Yay. You can go to ladiesofwealth.com. And if you go to our new podcast website, there's actually a button there that you can leave me a voice message and just ask your question. And I love those kinds of questions, because then I can work them into the podcast. Now look. How many of you have been coming to our Real Estate 101 classes since we started teaching them in 2013? You have probably noticed that for the last, 13 to 25, what is that, 12 years? Y'all have probably noticed that this class that I do is a fundraiser. And for the last, when did I join John Maxwell? 2016, 2017? For the last 8 or 9 years, this class, the Real Estate Third Thursdays, has been a fundraiser for our Global Youth Initiative. So if you screenshot my slides, if you like what I'm doing, if you're listening to the podcast and you just really, really enjoy it, please give us a donation for our Global Youth Initiative of Northwest Louisiana, as well as our Global Youth Initiative of Erath County. So Northwest Louisiana, that's the Shreveport-Bossier area, going up towards Texarkana. And then also here in where I currently reside in Erath County, that is Texas, a couple hours from the DFW Metroplex. You can give a donation of any size with PayPal, Cash App, Queen of Cashflow, and actually we have Venmo too now. You do Queen of Cashflow and just make sure you put Global Youth Initiative or GYI, or just put kids. You know what? Just put kids in the comment, and we'll make sure that it goes to the right place. Okay. I do want to say, if you are looking for a donation that's an actual tax deductible donation, get with me offline, because we can accept that through our church, which is also a sponsor of Global Youth Initiative Northwest Louisiana and Global Youth Initiative of Erath County. Okay. So I should probably, did I say contributions on this? Well, I did say donations. I need to change that terminology. Let me change that terminology, because you know what? I just had a briefing not long ago that if you're not giving tax donations, you should call it contributions, not donations. Okay. So I might need to do a class on that. That might be a good class. I might do a class on that later. But for now, let me just go ahead and change that on my slides so it's correct. If you really like what we're doing, we appreciate contributions of any size, even $1. People don't even think about it. Like, if you only have $1 or $2, it's a shift in your energy when you give that tender to somebody else in exchange for something. In this case, you are making a contribution for us to help do something wonderful in the lives of these young people. And it shifts your energy. So it's one thing for me to go to YouTube and take the free YouTube University class, right? It's another thing for me to pay somebody for the value that they are offering. And hopefully you're paying somebody who's offering better value than you can get for free, right? Like it really upsets me when so many people go and get real estate and other coaching from people who don't even tell you the real deal. Like they make all these big lofty promises, and we get caught up in, they sell the sizzle and there's no steak. And I'm over here with a big old steak, like, come on. So but it changes the dynamics. And that's why some of these people that have very empty promises, that's why some of these people who buy into that actually do make some changes, because you've exchanged tender. Now you have changed energy. Okay. And so if you're going to do that, do it with me, y'all. If you're going to pay somebody to teach you real estate, pay somebody who's actually going to teach you real estate and actually explain to you the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the ugly. All right. Yeah, I'm going to be biased there. All right. So we're going to start with a little bit of foundation. Now, again, I have been teaching foreclosure consulting since 2013. And actually, I was a founding treasurer of the Maryland Association of Professional Foreclosure Consultants. And I'm pretty sure that kicked off in like 2007 or 2008. And so I've been on the periphery of teaching this stuff for a long time. Okay. This is one of my favorite things to teach, because it makes such a difference in the lives of people who want to get started in real estate investing and don't have the money to go out and buy a house. Okay. And so, for me, one of the reasons that this is really important, and one of the reasons that I do these next couple of slides is that it's really important to me that you understand the foundation of why I would teach real estate when everybody doesn't really want to buy a house. Okay. There's a ton of different ways to profit from real estate. Even if you don't buy it, you can profit from the property itself and get the money, the cash flow from it. There's all kinds of industries around real estate, if you have a great eye for design, clearly I don't. If you look behind me, I just like what I like, right? But if you have a really good eye for design, staging properties and things like that, oh my goodness, you can make a lot of money helping investors stage properties. Or maybe what I call ancillary services, okay, down here at the bottom, things like vending machines and ATMs. I'm always scoping out, like, where would I put an ATM? Where would I put a vending machine if this person would let me, or if that landlord would let me, I'm always scoping that out. And so there's lots of ways to make money with real estate and through real estate investing or helping real estate investors. And all these ways combine together to create win-win-win solutions. Okay. So one of the biggest and coolest things I like about real estate, and again, I know some of you have heard this slide for 12 years in a row. All right. But it bears repeating. While it's always important in a financial planner stance to have different investments. Like I would never recommend that people put all their investment in one basket. Like, don't put all your investment in the stock market. Don't put all your investment in the real estate. Don't put all your money under the mattress. Okay. I'm not going to be mad at you if you have a little bit of mattress money. I'm not going to be mad at you if you're in the stock market. I'm not going to be mad at you if you're in real estate. I'm going to be happy if you're in a bunch of different things. Okay. Now, what you're investing in is going to be different based on your financial standing, your relationship with debt, and all those kinds of things. And that's a whole nother discussion for another day. But we want to diversify. The reason that I like real estate to add to someone's portfolio is that in my life, it is one of the fastest and best ways to maintain and build wealth. Okay. I have seen, you notice in my second bullet, I say that real estate is the only ethical and repeatable way that I've personally seen people build financial independence in as little as 3 years. Okay. And what I mean by repeatable is it works for everybody who does it. See, everything doesn't always work for everybody. And I know some of you out there are going to be like, yeah, but I tried to invest in real estate and I lost so much money. If you come to my classes, my real estate 101 classes often enough, you will understand the mistakes that you probably made, or the market just bit you. That downturn in 2008. Yeah, I got bit a little bit too, because I didn't realize what I didn't realize. I didn't know what I didn't know. I went with the flow, and the flow bit me in the behind. Okay. So, that happens sometimes, but you know what happens after that? Those of us who've been through that, we have developed scar tissue and we can help others avoid it next time. Okay. And so what I mean by repeatable is if you follow the rules of real estate investing, you are going to make money. All right. Now, let me show you ways that you can make money in real estate investing. There's many more. Okay. I have a book around here somewhere that's like 1,001 ways to make money with real estate investing. And basically, it's like each of these with like 20 different variations or something like that, But these here are a bunch of ways that you can make money with real estate investing. And what I've done here is I've arranged them such that, oh, wait, if you're on the podcast, let me explain this. Okay. So if you're on the podcast, you're going to want to go to my YouTube channel, because in order for me to read the slide, it's going to take forever. But what I've got is 3 columns of ways to profit with real estate, whether you buy the house or not. Okay. And on my next slide, what I've done is I have shaded in blue the first 2 columns, which are ways that you can profit without buying the property. Now, you could conceivably profit without buying the property if you're dealing with land or flipping or landlording or leapfrogging. But, like in order to really flip the house, somebody's got to buy it, right? So whether that's you or somebody else, somebody's got to buy it, okay? Land, if you're making a land deal, well, I would put that under deal making rather than a land deal, unless you are doing something with the land, okay? Now, what I've done on the next slide, for those of you who are listening audio only later on, is I have highlighted in green the first column, which are ways that you can profit when you start off with nothing. Okay. So everybody wants to make it rich in real estate investing. Everybody wants to have 100 doors by next year. Everybody wants to have 1 million, 2 million, 5 million portfolio that they control. Now, honestly, I want to own. I don't want to control. And when I say own, I don't mean I want to own. I want my LLC to own. I want my trust to own. I don't even need my name to be anywhere on that property. Okay. But I need the property to not be somebody else's property, because it's going to take me 30 years to pay it off. Okay. Not my jam. Maybe yours, not my jam. Okay. Unless it's the property I'm living in. And even then, I really don't like that model, because it's too much risk of losing the property you have worked so hard on and poured so much into. Okay. But in this column of 20 plus ways to profit with real estate, even if you don't have money to start, are things like bird dogging, wholesaling, lease to own, deal making, foreclosure consulting, what we're going to talk about tonight, subject to acquisitions, virtual assistants, and ancillary services. Okay. And so we're going to talk today about subject to. And no matter what thing we're doing with real estate, now somebody ought to put this in the chat, because I know y'all already know what the number 1 rule of real estate investing is. But I may have some new people in here today. So let me go ahead and just remind everybody, just a quick little refresher. The number 1 rule of real estate investing is you make your money when you buy. That's right. You make your money when you buy. And one more time for the people in the back, you make your money when you buy. So that means if you are buying a property and you want to become a landlord, you are not buying a property at retail price and expecting it to appreciate maybe one day, and you're going to lose $200 on it every month, because one day it's going to triple in price. See, that's not making your money when you buy. You make your money when you buy, when you get that property at so much of a discount that if you had to sell it in a hurry, you could unload it on another investor in a hurry at a small profit, and they profit, you profit, and whoever ultimately ends up living in that house profits. That's how you make your money when you buy. When you make your money when you buy, you have cash flow coming in day one. Or you have an exit strategy that's going to give you some serious cash. Now, I understand there's no guarantees in real estate. I've been in a property where we've opened up something and it was like, oh no, now what? And sometimes that happens, right? But if you buy it cheap enough, even when the oh no hits the fan, you're still able to make some money on that property. And that's why we teach property acquisition the way we teach property acquisition. You got to make your money when you buy. Okay. You've got to make your money when you buy. And because a lot of us who want to get into real estate are getting into real estate because we don't have any money, I highly recommend that you stay on the side of the property continuum that doesn't require a lot of money to get started. Okay. I know this flies in the face of a lot of people who want to teach you, go out and get other people's money, go big or go home, have faith in yourself. If, this person on their first deal, they made $100,000 with no experience in real estate investing. And what they don't tell you is, yeah, that person made $100,000. They never had no experience in real estate investing, but they've been an appraiser for 10 years. Or they've been a home inspector for 10 years, or they're a plumber or an electrician or a carpenter or something related to properties where they know what a property needs and what the values are. So yeah, maybe they never bought and sold a house as an investor. Maybe they've never been a landlord, but they knew enough that they didn't come into that situation with no knowledge at all. Okay. And I'm not saying it won't happen on your first deal. I'm just saying most of those testimonials, those 80,000, 100,000, 200,000 profit on your first deal, usually those testimonials have someone on that team that knows what they are doing. Okay. So I don't want people to be dissuaded. Okay. But if you, for many of you watching me today, just an extra $2,000-$3,000 a month would be like, it would give you some breathing room, right? When the check engine light came on, you wouldn't be so stressed because you can do the next month. You're going to have more income coming in. You're going to have extra $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And you can just, you see, most of us don't need to be a millionaire tomorrow. We just need some at the end of our month. And right now, with the way the economy is going, it's more important than ever to build breathing room into our financial lives. And that's what real estate investing, that's what foreclosure consulting can do for us. All right. All right. So getting started in real estate. And again, we are going to be talking about foreclosure consulting, but I want to kind of cover bird dogging and wholesaling because that's how a lot of people get started. Bird dogging is finding a property for another investor, which is great. I find you send me a property that you think I might be able to buy. I find out who the owner is. I do all the things, and I buy the property. And then what I will do is give you a referral fee, a cut, a commission, a gift, whatever's legal in the state that you reside in the state that I reside in the state the property's in, right? Like I try to cover all my bases because I ain't trying to go to jail. All right. That's bird dogging. The thing that I've found with a lot of people in bird dogging is you can say you were the first person that brought it, but a lot of times that investor isn't going to loop back and make sure you get paid. And sometimes it's not the investor's fault. A lot of times it is, but sometimes it's not the investor's fault. Like many of y'all saw that red church in Blanchard that we were going to do a subject to deal on, and me and my husband were going out there and we were fixing it up and cleaning it up, and we were actually fixed up quite a bit of it, but there was some serious things that needed fixing that we weren't going to touch until the property was actually ours. And then I retired from the military and moved out to Texas and realized I don't feel like driving 5 hours each weekend to have church. And the Lord didn't call me to it, so we let it go, right? But with that church, when I went back through my records, there were like 6 other wholesalers who had sent me that property. And so, if you're getting a lot, if it's this juicy property, who's to know? Who's to say who actually gave it to you first, right? Well, that's why I recommend, instead of bird dogging, that you take bird dogging to the next level, which is wholesaling. Now you're finding properties for the investor to buy, but you're taking it a step further and you're locking down the deals with a sales contract. So instead of just saying, hey, JJ, this vacant property on such and such street might be something you could buy, what you're doing is, hey, JJ, there's this vacant property and I contacted the owner and they're willing to sell it to you for $100,000. It's worth $150,000, but it needs about 20 of work, and they're willing to sell it to you for $100,000 cash offer, quick close as is. Okay. That's the difference. The difference now is the wholesaler has controlled the deal by locking it under a contract. If I buy that contract and that wholesaler did their part to build their fee in, then I have to pay them. I can't skip out on paying them. Okay. And so why would I bring that up on a class about foreclosures? Because what I'm going to teach you about foreclosures really requires that you understand the wholesale process. So I want you to go out, if this is new to you, I want you to go out to my YouTube channel and look up Wholesaling 101. And I think we did it about 2 or 3 months ago. Wholesaling 101, you will be able to understand the wholesaling process, and it'll make more sense to you. Now look, if you haven't watched it, don't turn off this dial. Don't flip, don't swipe. Stay listening, because it'll do a couple things for you. You're going to get a foundation about foreclosures, and then when you go watch the wholesaling video, that will make some more sense. And when you come back to the foreclosing workshop on the 31st, it's going to be locked in. You're going to be amazed at how profitable your behavior, your actions, your phone calls are going to be when you have got this whole thing reverberating in your head like that. It's going to be amazing. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm so excited for you. Ooh, you're going to make some money this year, y'all. Okay. So what foreclosure consulting is basically the same thing as wholesaling, but it's got an extra step of you helping people to try to keep their home. The part where the wholesaling comes in is, oh, I don't have a nice way to say it. I'm trying to work on seasoning my words with salt, but there's just not a nice way to say it. Most people who are facing foreclosure have already tried everything they can try to stay in that property. They've borrowed from everybody they can borrow from. They have worked out everything they could with the bank, and they are up against a wall. If somebody doesn't come in and buy that property from them and make the loan current, they are going to be in foreclosure, and that's going to hinder their future for the next 7 to 10 years. So what we as foreclosure consultants understand is that we want to help people stay in their home. But a lot of times they're not going to be able to stay in their home. And that's when we work with them to figure out how much can they realistically sell this property for, what work needs to be done, and can we find an investor that will come in and buy the property. Now, in some states, the person who's the foreclosure consultant turns around and buys the property. In many states, that's not legal. Okay, so you got to understand your jurisdiction. We'll talk a little bit more about that as the evening progresses, but just know that there are different ways to help the homeowner. We're going to talk about them just now, but ultimately, many people who are facing foreclosure are going to end up losing the house. And I feel like it's a wonderful way to allow them to move on in their lives with dignity, to allow them to escape foreclosure, retain their credit and their financial standing, and move on with their life with a clean slate. See, people think bankruptcy and foreclosure is a clean slate, and it's not. It feels like it in the moment. But if you've ever been broke like that, you know what I'm talking about. It's not a clean slate. It's a mistake that hangs over your head. And so many people get stuck in this cycle over and over and over and over again. And we have an opportunity to break this cycle. We have an opportunity to profit while helping someone else change their family's financial future. What a wonderful, wonderful way for us to change our family's financial future. Before I describe foreclosure consulting a little bit more, I do want to talk about this slide, because for years, all the experts have been saying, oh, foreclosures are going to happen. Foreclosures are going to happen. It's going to be dramatic. And I still think that we're going to have a resurgence in foreclosures, like they are steadily climbing. So when we go to the courthouse steps, we are seeing more and more, but they're not an onslaught of foreclosures like the financial predictions of a couple of years ago. See, a couple of years ago when COVID was happening, a lot of the banks were offering forbearances on foreclosures, which basically meant you didn't have to pay your loan. And what they were figuring that was going to happen was people were going to use their money for their daily living expenses instead of paying their loan. And because they're in this forbearance, They're going to use that money for their living expenses. And when the forbearance was over, they were expecting that a lot of people weren't going to have the money they needed to get that loan caught back up. Now, some of you may remember I had a property at that time with a mortgage on it, and that particular property, I went ahead and entered the forbearance process because I had always helped other people in foreclosure consulting, but I had never been through it myself and seen it through to the end. So I was just a curious soul. But I tell you what I did. I took every one of those mortgage payments and put them in a separate savings account, so that when the forbearance period was over, the bank was shocked. They were like, well, we need to re-roll this over for you. We need to do this. We need to do that. And what the banks have done is they have made it, or had done at that time, is they had made it almost impossible for you to get out of the forbearance cycle. Well, I had the money in a savings account. I had no intention of not paying my mortgage. And thankfully, praise the Lord, I was able to maintain my lifestyle. And I simply went through the process to see what it was like to go through the process. What kind of games was the bank going to play and things like that. And so it took forever for me to get the bank to let me bring my loan up to date. They just could not believe that I had all that money sitting in the savings account. And so we all thought, all of us financial people thought, that it was going to crash. The run up in the prices, y'all might remember in COVID, the prices were skyrocketing, plus all these forbearances and all these creative products, and people weren't paying their loans. We just knew that once the courts opened up, it was going to be an onslaught of foreclosures. Now, we can complain a lot about the economy. I do not like paying $7 for a dozen eggs. But a lot of the financial decisions that have made other economic things a little tougher for everybody right now, it are also the same financial decisions that stayed that level of foreclosures. So what's happened is, let's see if I've got a blank one. Can you see the back? Yeah, you guys can see that too bad. So what's happened is, what should have happened, hold on. What should have happened with the foreclosures is they were nothing during COVID. They should have shot way up. Okay, that's what the foreclosures should have done. Okay, all the things that are not all. I don't want to be an all or nothing, but many of the financial policies that have been put in place that we don't like. What those policies did was it kind of flattened the curve a little bit. So, we talked about wearing masks during COVID to flatten the curve. Okay. So what they did with the foreclosures is they kind of flattened it out. So it didn't have that steep rise to ruin our economy. Okay, so we don't have another crash like we had back in 2008, 2007. All right, so they made it so slower. But from my perspective as a financial planner and someone who studies the markets a little bit, this is not financial advice at all. But just from my perspective, they staved it off a little bit. Okay, but they didn't fix the problem. The problem is people don't have enough income to maintain their lifestyles, and people don't have enough income to maintain these properties, and property values everywhere are skyrocketing, and mortgage rates are skyrocketing, and people are getting pushed into these refinances that really chain them against the wall that they don't even realize it, and those chickens are coming home to roost soon. When that is, I don't know, but it kills me. I even had somebody I went to lunch with one time, and they were like, let me take you to lunch and let me ask you about this. And I told them don't do it. And they were like, thank you so much for telling me to do this. We did this refinance and now our bills are lower. And y'all, they had like 7 years left to pay off their house. And then they refinanced into a 30-year mortgage just to save $200 or $300 a year. And I'm like, you can stop eating out. I mean, a month. Just to save $200 or $300 a month. I mean, you can stop eating out and save $200 or $300 a month for many of us. Like our meal that day was like $70, right? like I was like, no, pay off your house, have it paid off in 7 years. No, they extended their term. Okay. And so And so now what the bank is doing, I'm not going to draw it out, but I probably need to. Now what the bank is doing is the bank is making all that money. Well, guess what's going to happen 10, 15 years from now when those people are, because they're already looking at retiring and they're going to get ready to retire. They're getting ready to retire. That's why they wanted to refinance and lower their costs. And what's going to happen 10 years from now when they can't keep working? Like, oh, it's okay. I'm going to retire and I'm just going to have a little part-time job at Walmart. It's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be great for like the first 10 years. But what happens with medical conditions? What happens with inflation? What happens with blah, 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 blah? It would have been so much better to just stick it out for 7 years and have a paid off house. But people aren't doing that. You know why people aren't doing that? Because it costs $7 a dozen for eggs. More if you want the good eggs. Yeah, I'm about to buy me some chickens. I have one of the dads was showing me the chicken website where I can go and buy chickens for like, buy little chicks for like $3 or $4 a pop. I'm like, you know what? That might be I'm in Texas now. That might be a good investment for me, right? But seriously, they staved off the crash, but there's still a problem looming. There's still a problem looming. And unless we do something in this economy to help people be able to have enough money to actually pay for their housing and their food and their childcare and all those necessary things. We're not even talking about McDonald's every night, right? Unless something changes, we are still heading for a high incidence, in my opinion, of foreclosures down the line. It's just instead of being boom all at once, boom all at once, it may be a slow ride. Okay. Either way, you want to be ready to help people and help yourself at the same time. Okay. So I don't want to make it sound self-serving and I don't want to make it sound altruistic either. Because I'm not in business to help you to not make money. Okay. I'll help you and not make money with these Thursday night classes. I'll always have a Thursday night class or it may not be Thursday, but I'll always have a free class. Let me just say that again. I will always have a free class because I remember what it was like to be $800,000 in debt. But my free class does not mean I need to come over to your house and spend all day working with you and calling the bank and filling out paperwork and doing blah, 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 blah. I don't have to do that to help you. And I'm not going to do that to help you unless the Lord leads me to do that to help you or unless I'm getting paid. Oh, yeah, I can't believe you would say something like that. Let me tell you something. Some of y'all are losing a lot of money in your businesses, real estate or otherwise, because we have been reared with this false notion that making money is evil. It's not evil to have wealth. If it was evil to have wealth, the Bible would say it's evil to have wealth. It's not evil to have wealth. If it was evil to have wealth, the Bible wouldn't give you a blueprint and a pathway to, if you have wealth, what to do with it. It would just say, give away all your wealth and be normal, right? Give away all your wealth and be poor. In fact, it doesn't say that at all. In fact, one thing my Bible says to me, and all of these Bibles say, all of these Bibles have a scripture that says that the poor are going to be with us always. No matter how much you give to the poor, no matter how much you pour out and help people, no matter how much you try to lift people up, there is always going to be folks who choose to have a poverty mindset and they are going to always be poor. And it's not always the person who's disabled on disability, and it's not always the person who's on fixed income pension. Many people who are on fixed income, many people who are on disability are financially secure. They may not buy Louboutins every month or Gucci or whatever every month, but they have what they need to eat and to live, and they don't have to worry about money because they put sound financial principles in place. Oh, y'all, I got on a topic today, but the problem I'm gonna tell y'all. Okay, it's telling me that LinkedIn is having a problem. No, I don't want to remove it. It's telling me LinkedIn is having a problem. Try ending this stream and creating a new one, or remove this destination from the stream and then re-add it. Can I edit it? I don't want to risk cutting off the wrong thing. Okay. I'm just going to leave it. Hopefully it'll come back. Okay. Let me tell you when this became real to me. I was doing financial coaching. I was doing free financial coaching, and I had like clients every night. And so first night, pizza, boys in the back of the church. They were doing video games and eating pizza, and I was in the front room. Our church, the way our church was in the mall, we had a front office that was like a community space, and then we had the sanctuary. And so I was meeting with somebody in my office in the community space, and it was, oh great, yeah, it's okay, help them. And then the next day, somebody else, pizza, video games, help the people. And the third day, when the person came in for my appointment, they were somebody I had helped 2 months ago with pizza and video games. And now we were doing a third night of pizza and video games. And this person was in there. They had not done the single thing that I had been telling them to do the last 2 months. And I looked at my children who were like tired of pizza by now and who wanted to hang out with their mom, not just sit in the back room playing video games. They wanted to play video games with mom. And I thought to myself, you know what? I want to help people. I want to help people, but these people are not like I was when I was $800,000 in debt. You gave me any instruction or anything that I could implement within the confines of my being in debt, so I didn't have to pay. Don't give me $1,000 solution when I'm 800,000 in debt. But if you gave me free stuff I could do to better myself, I was doing it. And in that moment, I realized I was doing a disservice to my family to continue offering all of this free education night after night after night after night for people who were not willing to do the work. And one of the ways that you find out if people are willing to do the work is by, drum roll, charging a fee. Now, I'm always going to have a free Thursday, or it may not be Thursday. I'm always going to have a free class. But I am never going to subject my kids to that again without finding a way to get paid for it on the back end. And if somebody's in foreclosure and they can't pay me, you better believe I'm going to find a way for somebody else who ultimately buys that house or some other situation where I will ultimately be paid. And that's how you have to think about real estate investing. See, you don't have to lose money in your investing. Every once in a while, you make a bad decision. Every once in a while, you make a bad buy. Every once in a while, the deal falls through. Okay, that happens. That's part of doing business. But if you structure your business properly and you do enough of it, then you will not continue to decrease. You might have ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs, but eventually the ups all go up just like the market. Woo! We started off talking about being offensive. I know what I just said is offensive to quite a few people, but you know what? That's what I do, and that's why it works, okay? All right. Ooh, y'all. So we've got a perfect storm brewing. I think foreclosures are still going to be an issue. And I think it's important for us to get comfortable with these concepts now, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to wait until foreclosures are on a steeper rise to be like, oh, I think I'm going to try it now. No, you want to work on it now, make a little bit of money here and there now. And then when everything is up, now you're the person with the expertise. You're the one with years of expertise as opposed to somebody else who's just jumping in. Okay. And that means you're going to be able to offer more. You're going to have more people who word of mouth. Hey, they helped me out of a sticky situation. It's going to set you head and shoulders above the competition. If this is something that you're interested in, you're going to want to start working on it now, even though the steep rise in foreclosures hasn't happened yet. All righty. All right. Now, with all that said, and you know what? I'm just going to put in a little disclaimer. Okay. If you're listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, this podcast is probably kind of convoluted because I started off talking about one thing and went to another thing and started off talking about being offensive. And then I said some stuff that was offensive, but it's just who I am. So, it's not wrong. People just don't like it. Look, hey, I have to add this to the other part about the offensive thing. Just because people get offended at what you say doesn't mean you're wrong. I find it hilarious how many people disagree with me about a debt-free lifestyle. And they are always coming to me to fund their fundraisers. And they're like, I can't go on this trip if you don't help pay my way. And I can't do this and I can't. And I'm like, well, you know what? You can go to all your other people, money people. Other people, money people. Like, I'm sorry, this is my way. And I'm not subsidizing your way. I'm subsidizing my way. But nobody who does it my way comes to me with their hand out because they need that kind of help, unless it's a community big project, but they're not coming to me asking me to help fund their trips. They're not coming to me asking me to help fund shoes for their children's feet. They're not coming to me asking to help fund that stuff because they followed my way. And my way works. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, it's not grown and sexy, but it works. It works 100% of the time for 100% of the people who do the work. And so sometimes people get offended at you and they turn around 5 years later, they still in the toxic jobs and you have financial independence. People get offended at you, but you turn around 10 years later, they are chained to the wall with mortgage after mortgage after mortgage and can't find anybody who can afford the rent. And you're sleeping well at night because your properties are paid off. And they're not in your name. They're not in your name, so you don't look like you got a lot, but they're paid off. I love it. Okay, anywho, I probably will add that to the other part of the podcast about being offended. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, if you're listening again on the podcast, then we just finished the foundation of why foreclosure consulting is so important. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go into actually what foreclosure consulting is. So on the podcast, we're going to split that into 2 separate episodes. Okay. All right. So, what happens with foreclosure? Okay. And you're starting to notice a trend here, right? Like the trend with the tax sales is the jurisdictions aren't getting their tax money. So guess what? They're going to allow your house to be sold so they can pay the cops. Well, here in this case, the bank isn't getting their money. So they're going to force the sale of your house so they can get paid. Okay. And so it all comes down to making sure you pay your bills and helping people who can't pay their bills find other things to do so that somebody can put that property back into circulation, making money for the banks, making money for the jurisdiction. Or as I like to say, making money for my favorite investors. All right, so there's 3 phases of foreclosure profit that we're going to talk about today. The first thing we're going to talk about is the very first phase of foreclosure profit, profit. I don't know what other people I can put in there. And that would be distressed sellers. These are people who are struggling and they can't pay their bills. Or they're not struggling, but they just don't pay their bills. For whatever reason, they're not paying their mortgage. The next phase that we're going to talk about today, well, the next phase at all, and we are going to talk about it, is at the auction. So if you are a distressed seller for long enough, you have not been paying your mortgage, eventually the bank is going to get tired of not getting their money. They're going to force the sale of your house, and it's going to go to auction. That auction usually requires cash on hand, often that day, to buy the property. That's why they say cash is king. Okay. If nobody buys the property for what the bank needs them to buy it for, then the bank buys the property at the sale, and now it becomes what's called real estate owned, REO. So if the property gets to that point, then that's when you're going to see it listed in the MLS on realtor.com or any other listing like that as REO, short sale, or anything, some kind of language that's indicating that the bank owns this property, and they kind of already know that they're not getting the full loan value for it. So that's why a short sale is often required. Okay. If you don't know what a short sale is, don't worry about it for this situation. We don't need to know about it for foreclosure consulting, but go look at my real estate investing 101 class, and that covers what short sales are. And I think we did that class in January, if I recall correctly. Okay, so one of the things, oh, and let me take that off because I already built that workshop. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. Give me a sec. I thought I QC'd these slides pretty well, but apparently I missed that one. Okay, we already have that workshop. It's at jjclink.com/FC for foreclosure consulting. Okay. Okay. Did I mention that? I think I did. Okay. Some states do not allow you to market to a homeowner in distress and tell them you're going to help them avoid foreclosure, or tell them that you're going to help them stay in their home, and still turn around and buy their property from them. Okay. So when I got my start in foreclosure consulting, I lived in Maryland. And the reason the Maryland Association of Professional Foreclosure Consultants was created was because they passed a law in 2007 which said if you use any kind of foreclosure consultant marketing, you cannot buy the house. And that's how a lot of investors were finding their properties. And so what the foreclosure consultant becomes then is a buffer between the homeowner and the investor who ultimately buys the property. Now, if you are in a state that doesn't require a buffer, then that's okay. That's okay. You can still use these techniques to help the homeowner. And then when they can't buy the house or they can't sell the house, when they can't get their house caught up or they can't sell it in time to avoid foreclosure sale, you can still swoop in and buy the house. However, we want to do it with a high degree of ethics. We want to do it with a high degree of ethics. We are not lying to people and kicking them out of their property. Okay. Not in this campus. That's other people. That's how other people teach real estate. That's not how I teach real estate. You don't need to do that kind of real estate to make money in real estate. You can do that kind of real estate and make more money in real estate, I'm sure. But I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want any of my students to go to jail. Okay. So a foreclosure consultant can be that buffer if needed in states where advertising to a homeowner in distress could land you in jail if you buy their house. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 phases. The first phase is distressed sellers, and that is our pre-foreclosure. This is when the homeowner isn't paying their bills, and some banks will work with you more than other banks, okay? There's a couple different things that the banks can do to help you through a tough time, okay? So I already talked about the forbearance. So let me just kind of summarize that one again for you. Or if you're listening on the podcast and it's a different episode, it's the previous episode when I talked about it, okay? What a forbearance is the bank says, okay, you don't have to pay your loan for a couple months, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it's going to be. During COVID, I think it was like almost a year that people didn't have to pay on their mortgages. The thing about a forbearance, though, is that you don't have to pay, but when it's time to pay again, guess what the bank expects? The bank expects you to have all the money. And guess what most people in distress don't have when they haven't had to pay their mortgage? They don't have that money. And so the next thing that a bank can do is a modification. Now, the banks don't like to do modifications, and I listed it here first because that's what you want to get for your client if you can, okay? Most banks are going to push into a forbearance, but a loan modification is preferable, and it's also what a bank can do if the homeowner can't get caught up after a forbearance, okay? The loan modification, now you are actually changing the loan. So you are working with the bank to convince them to either refinance the loan when it really shouldn't be, really doesn't meet the best criteria for refinancing. And some of that is a little awkward in today's landscape, I'll admit, but like working with them to try to refinance the loan. Sometimes they can take your missed payments and boop, add them to the end of the loan. I haven't honestly seen banks willing to do that in a long time. Right now, the banks are really big on refinancing because that's where they're making a lot of money off of fees and interest. So you had a loan that was at like 2.5%, and now you fall into foreclosure. You're falling into distressed sellers. You're not able to pay your mortgage. Well, does the bank really want to keep you at 2.5%? No, of course not. They want to put you at 6 or 7%. It's the same amount of money out, but now they get to charge more. Yay, banks. Poor homeowner. All right. So if you can get them to do some kind of modification where they just kind of slide those payments to the end, that would be ideal. Another thing that we have to watch out for with this is sometimes the banks will say we're doing one thing, but when you read the paperwork, it actually says another thing. So when you're working with a homeowner in a pre-foreclosure situation, by that I mean they missed some payments, but they haven't gone to court yet. I'm not court. The bank hasn't pushed it all the way through the legal system yet. You want to try to help them modify that loan. You want to try to help them get caught up if at all possible so that they can avoid foreclosure. Now, this is where sometimes you have to bring an investor in because, again, usually by time somebody comes to a foreclosure consultant, they've already tried to do everything that they know how to do, and it hasn't worked. They've borrowed from everybody they know to borrow from. They've worked themselves to the bone trying to work extra jobs and trying to make ends meet, and it's just not working, and it's not working fast enough. Okay. So in those situations, it's probably advisable to bring in an investor if the property numbers work. Okay. And you can find an investor to take the property off their hands and prevent foreclosure. Now, here's something that is let me tell you why this became so predatory. Because what a lot of people did is they would promise, stay in your home, stay in your home. Come sell your house to me and I'll turn around and sell it back to you with these better terms. Sell your house to me and I'll go ahead and, I'll go ahead and rent it back to you and you can stay in your home. And as soon as that person signed on the dotted line, those investors pulled their house right out from under them. That's why so many states enacted laws that said if you consult with them to avoid foreclosure, you can't turn around and buy the house. Okay. So please be aware of the laws where you live. Okay. If they can't get caught up, then it's going to go to auction. If they can't get caught up themselves, if we can't get the bank to modify the loan, if they can't do a forbearance or any of the other tools available to them, or if they, like many homeowners that come to you, will have, they have already done that with the bank and the bank's like, we tired of it. Okay. If there's nothing that can be done to get them caught up, wait a second. I want to say something else on the pre-foreclosure stage. Okay. Sometimes there's not really a whole lot of equity in the deal. But what you can, so remember when I said you make your money when you buy. If you've got a property that's facing, the homeowners can't pay their mortgage and they know they're going to be going into foreclosure soon, you may be willing to find an investor, come in and get them caught up in exchange for buying the house. They'll buy the house from them. They'll put the money in to get the house caught up and stave off the foreclosure. And then they'll put a renter in who can make the payments. Okay. You might not be able to find those properties at the 70 to 80% off that we like to acquire properties at. However, if you can get a homeowner who's facing foreclosure to sell to an investor who can get the loan caught up, and you can have them skip, I don't want to say it, have the investor just take over the payments. Okay. So the house might actually be worth $125,000, but because the homeowner only owes $100 on it, and now because they've missed 3 payments, there's an extra $10,000 in fees and payments. So now an investor has to get into it for $110,000. You say, well, gee, JJ, that doesn't match your 70 to 80% rule of thumb, your MAO, the max allowable offer. We always start with 70 to 80%. Well, if the investor can just come in and take over the payments, they might be willing to do that. Why? Because the payment structure is already in place. The loan is at a low enough percentage point or interest rate, and they know that they can get it caught up and get somebody in there who wants to rent to own it for a lot more. Okay. And so there's a lot of creative financing that can happen there. I want to bring this example up because sometimes those subject to deals, subject to the existing loan, sometimes those deals might be the only path out. And your job as a foreclosure consultant will be to help a client see that you've done everything you can to keep them in their house. And now it may be time to move on. And in those kinds of situations where that investor takes over the loan and then they make the loan current to stave off foreclosure, now what happens is the homeowner moves on with their life. The investor might give them $2 or $3 or $5,000 to move and kind of a cash for keys kind of thing, right? But now that loan that they had is now on a property owned by somebody else. And when that somebody else makes the regular payments, it's actually helping the credit of the person who was facing foreclosure. I know this is mind-blowing to some folks. This is what they call subject to. And if you are interested in it, I definitely want you to be involved with the creative financing. I think that's coming up next month or the month after. You definitely want to be on the creative financing class so you can see more about how that works. It's a very powerful technique that you can use sometimes when there's no equity or not enough equity, but you can just slide in and take over the payments. You're not creating new debt. Okay. I don't like creation of new debt. I don't even like taking on debt. But if you are helping them rebuild their life by paying down their debt for them in exchange for them giving you their house, I mean, like, that's a win-win in many, many situations, plus a win for whoever it is that gets the property. Now, if none of these strategies that I've mentioned work, the next phase is when the bank gets tired of waiting, is going to the auction. So when we go to the auction, now the loan couldn't get caught up. They tried everything. Nothing's worked. Now the property is going to be sold. The bank's goal in foreclosing is to try to get their money back. There are other types of foreclosure. Last month, we talked about tax sales. Depending on the state you're in, if you're in a state that does tax liens, when you buy that tax and you wait out the redemption period, you now have a lien against the property for that tax, and you foreclose on that property to force the sale of the property to satisfy your lien, right? But in a tax sale, never mind. I'm not going to go into the whole tax sale thing. Okay. You can force the sale of the house, and if nobody wins, you get the house. Okay. And some states, you bid up what you would pay for the house in the first place, even when you're buying the tax. And then after the redemption period, you just go in and pay it. You don't even have to foreclose on it. There's a process and there's fees, but they'll do that for you. It just depends state to state. Okay. But there's a lot of different reasons that something can be foreclosed on. But the main reason is usually the bank wants their money back. Okay. But there are other kinds of liens where somebody who wants to go through all the fees of foreclosing can go through all the fees of foreclosing. If you're going to a foreclosure auction and you want to profit from buying the property, okay? So now let me make sure I'm delineating what I said here, okay? We talked about phase one. I guess for you guys, it'd be on this side. Phase one is pre-foreclosure. That's where a foreclosure consultant can come in and try to help the homeowner keep their home or connect them with an investor, or in states that allow it, they could be the investor that buys the home so that the homeowner doesn't have to go to foreclosure. If the homeowner goes to foreclosure, that property goes to sale. At the auction, cash is king. You want to buy the property and lock it down, and you have to bring the cash to the table, usually that afternoon, okay? What generally happens in those situations, though, is that the sale is going to be too low for what the bank needs for their insurance. And so then the bank will bid higher. And the bank will actually buy the property because the bank doesn't want to lose their money. And so they'll bid on the property, and now the bank ends up owning the property. It's what we call real estate owned. Okay, real estate owned, REO. So now when you go look in the listings, you're going to realize what REO is. Okay, and so REO is property that the bank owns, and the bank sells it just like anything else. Okay. It's usually sold through a realtor now. Now, back in the day when I got started in this, y'all, when I got started in this, they weren't always sold through realtors, depending on where you lived. Like, you contacted the bank and you got the list of properties that were REO. It's a whole different landscape now, but yeah, today you'll see them listed out there on the in the MLS, and they'll say REO, they'll say short sale. And I did mention a short sale just to make sure I've closed that loop, because sometimes I get excited and I don't close the loop. The short sale is where the property has a loan against it, but you can't sell it for as much as the loan. So you could only sell it, for example, the loan is $100,000, but the most anybody's going to pay for it is $70,000. So you got to convince the bank to take $70,000 as if it's paid in full for the $100,000. Now, there's a whole science and process behind short sales. And usually it's a month by month process, and you're looking for that sweet spot of what, the devaluation for the bank's insurance crosses what the investor's willing to pay for the property, and boom, now you hit a sweet spot and the bank accepts the investor's offer. Okay. We're not talking about that today. I took the class on it. I tried to do it once. It was too much paperwork and too much headache for too little value. I said, I like my other ways. Everybody finds a way that works for them. I know people who do short sales and that's all they do, and they make good money and they have properties. I do other things. I make good money and I have properties. It's all good in the hood. All right. All right. So you might say to yourself, okay, now that you've explained that, how do I actually profit? Clearly, in the pre-foreclosure phase, the homeowner is not going to be able to pay me. If they could pay me, they would pay the bank, right? Okay, so you can help the homeowner in a couple ways depending on the timeline, and you can charge the homeowner in some states, most states. And you can, if you can't charge the homeowner, you can find local helping agencies to help. And I mentioned in many states, in a growing number of states, you cannot buy the property if you start off consulting them on their foreclosure. But in some states, you still can buy the property. Okay. And so if you buy the property, well, that kind of becomes your payment for working with them, right? The discount you get on the property, right? The fact that you get the property at a discount, right? In other states where you can't buy the property, the investor who buys the property can pay your foreclosure consulting fee. Guess what the foreclosure consulting fee is a lot like? Oh, it's a lot like a wholesaler's fee, except it has a fancy new name, and I may have done a little bit extra work to earn that fee, right? See, that's why I started off with the description of bird dogging and wholesaling in the beginning, so that you would understand how that process worked, because it's almost the same thing with foreclosure consulting. I'm working with this homeowner. They can't sell the house. They can't get it caught up to stay in the house. Here's what they'll be willing to sell it for. Here's the terms upon which they'd be willing to sell it. And in those situations, now you're a foreclosure consultant, but you're really acting in the capacity as a wholesaler. With the difference that instead of a wholesale fee, it's a foreclosure consulting fee. And so you want to make sure that if you are helping someone in pre-foreclosure, that you understand very clearly how you are going to get paid. All right. You want to make sure you understand how you're going to get paid. And sometimes if you're just starting out, like when I was starting out, this cracks me up. When I was starting out in a new state, so I had some clout and some status in Maryland, but I moved to a new state. And in this new state, one of my first people that I worked with, we got her house taken care of. She was able to round up the money from some friends. And her bank was like one of the worst. There's some banks that you're like, yeah, I already know this is not going anywhere. But her bank was one of the worst, but we were able to get things together, got it all figured out, got her good to go. Well, because I had just moved there, I wasn't even charging a fee, especially if they didn't sell the house. All I was asking for was testimonials. So this person comes back to me a year later, they're facing foreclosure again. We staved off the foreclosure the first time, but they didn't implement the financial principles and they stopped coming to the monthly classes. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't help it so much if you're not going to help yourself, right? Well, they come back to me a year later and I'm like, well, I would love to help you, but you never fulfilled your end of the contract. You were supposed to make me a video testimonial of how I helped you. Send me that video and we'll get you back into the queue. She never sent the video, y'all. And I was like, I wasn't even asking for payment. I just needed to build my business in a new location. So I was charging videos. Now the ones that went to investors, yes, they had a foreclosure fee, a wholesale kind of fee, right? But the ones where the homeowners were working with me directly and they weren't selling their property to an investor, all I wanted was a video. Well, in that region, you just don't share your troubles. So people didn't want to do it. So I was like, well, you out. You got my one-time good help. Anyway, that's pre-foreclosure, okay? How do you profit from helping at the auction? Honestly, you're not really helping anybody at the auction. This slide is probably poorly named because you're actually not really helping anybody at the auction. But what you're doing at the auction is you show up with your cash or your check. You've done your research and you know what you're supposed to pay for this property, and you're not going to pay more than that. So then you profit by turning around and putting that property back into use so that you can profit from it. In the REO stage, again, you're not really helping anybody but the bank, but you do work the process and you buy the property. But again, at both the auction and the REO, we do not overpay for properties. Okay, let me say it again. Do not overpay for properties. I don't care how excited you get. You do your research and you determine that property is worth $100,000. Maybe you go up 110, man, 120. Don't you dare go up to 170 or 200. I have seen people at the auction pay twice what the property is worth because they got so caught up in the frenzy. And of course, the bank is going to let them do it. You know, the bank is going to love it. Love it. But you're not going to love it later on when you're stuck with a property you paid $200,000 for. It's only worth $120,000. When you got stuck with a property that you paid $40,000 for, it's only worth $20,000. Okay? I've seen it. I've been at the auctions and I've seen it. Okay? All right. Yeah, I probably need to retitle that slide. That's not a very good slide. You're helping in the pre-foreclosure stage. That's really the only time you're actually helping the homeowner. Okay? All right, so I made 2 promises to you today, okay? I made a promise that you could go out tonight and start researching these things, go to the courthouse. You know what? That promise wasn't that long. I basically said you could go do it. You go do something with us tonight. You probably can't go to the courthouse tonight. I need to change that slide too. Woo-wee. All right. But for real, you can take what I've learned and you can go out on the web. A lot of jurisdictions put their foreclosures and stuff out on the web. You can go out and find the next month's foreclosure sales, or you can go, depending on where you're at, you can either do a list that sells pre-foreclosure lists, or you can simply go to the courthouse. You know, the best way to do it is to go to the courthouse. You know, where I used to, when I was in Maryland, you could go to the courthouse every day, and every day they had a book. And that book had a list of who didn't pay their mortgage that day or that month. Every day was a new list, and it was just added to the book. And you could go through and you could get all those addresses. Well, what will you do with all those addresses? You'll do what we talked about in the Wholesaling 101. You'll research them. You'll try to contact the homeowner. You'll try to work with them as a foreclosure consultant. Or if you're in a state where you can't do that, as a wholesaler, you don't even have to tell them you're a foreclosure consultant, but you can use the knowledge of the foreclosure process to make sure that you're able to profit, okay? And a lot of that research, if your jurisdiction puts those loans, those defaulting loans online, you can do a lot of that research today. And you can find the people that are in foreclosure, and you can do the research you need to do, and you can build that muscle. You can build that foreclosure consulting muscle now, so that when we have a greater number of foreclosures, that you are poised and positioned to take advantage of the situation. Take advantage is the wrong word. That's the wrong phrase I meant. But I hope you know what I mean. You are helping others by helping yourself and helping whoever ultimately gets the property. It's a win-win-win. Okay, the other promise that I made to you is that you can dig deeper with scripts and role play and how to find the homeowners and the investors. Okay, so that's a big part of this training is the overview of the process, yes, but how do we find these people? How do we find investors that are going to buy these properties if we don't buy them, if we're in a state that doesn't let us buy them? What do we say when we get them on the phone? How do we even find their phone numbers in the first place? How do we delineate ourselves from the millions of other investors in some markets that are going to email, mail, call these people as soon as they show up on a foreclosure list? We talk about all of that in our 2-hour workshop that's going to be on May 31st. That is a Saturday morning, and you can go ahead and sign up for that at jjclink.com/FC. Now, please don't forget, wait, let me say that again. jjclink.com/FC. Now, please do not forget that this is our annual Global Youth Initiative fundraiser, so we appreciate your contributions of any size, okay? We appreciate your we appreciate your contributions of any size, okay? See what I did there? We appreciate your contributions of any size, and you can use, wow, I have different information on here. It's all the same place. It's all going to the same place. You can go to bit.ly/lovehelping. That takes you to my charity page on my old storefront, which I probably need to update, but the charity page is still valid. Or you can PayPal Minister Wiggins at gmail.com, but also you can use the handle Queen of Cashflow. That's on Queen of Cashflow is on Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. Okay, so all of them are Queen of Cashflow, and that will get the money to me. Okay, if you need a tax deductible way of actually making a donation instead of contribution, let me know. To be real, the way that the Trump's first administration changed the donation rules, it almost doesn't matter for most people anymore. But if it does matter for you, let me know. We'll actually the church is one of our fiduciary sponsors for the Global Youth Initiative, so they can receive the funds on behalf of the children and cut you a tax donation letter. Okay. All right. This is our fundraiser, so please support us if you found this information valuable. All right, one last time, I want to invite y'all to the workshop, and I'm going to let you nug on that for a second while I check the comments. I did not see any questions come through. I'm going to check the Ask JJC real quick. If you did the podcast and you left me a voicemail on the podcast, I'm not going to be able to incorporate that into today. I will have to incorporate that into the next Q&A podcast, okay? Excuse me. Sorry about that. Okay. You know what? For some reason, my computer is not cooperating. So I don't see any questions. It's not bringing up. It's thinking too long. Google is saying you don't have enough memory. Oops. I got too many things open. Sorry, y'all. But if you asked a question, we'll get to it. I might do a pop-up tomorrow. But the bottom line, the bottom line is foreclosure consulting can be an excellent way for you to help people while helping yourself get out of debt. It can be an excellent way for you to learn about the real estate market while you're helping people. And it can be an excellent way to build bridges between where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow with real estate investing, because it puts you in contact with investors who have already walked the walk and already can talk the talk and can teach you and mentor you along the way. It's a wonderful, wonderful technique for those of you who are getting started in real estate investing. And if you are interested in learning more about foreclosure consulting, please, sir, please, ma'am, join us Saturday, the 31st of May at 10 a.m. Now, if you are not going to be able to give up that Saturday morning, that's okay. Your $49 also covers lifetime access to the recording. All right. And once you buy it, you'll get the Zoom link. And then after the Zoom is over, you will get the link to the Zoom right into your email box, and you can look. Whoa. Let me tell you what I'm about to say. You will be able to actually download the training for yourself. Yes, not just available on streaming. Now, a lot of my classes are on streaming, but this one, you will actually be able to click download and download the video to your computer. Why would I do that? Because this is such an important topic, and we need more ethical people who are trained on being foreclosure consultants who can help these homeowners out when they're in this jam and help also everybody. It's a win-win-win. I just can't emphasize that enough. We need more good people with this skill set. So you'll be able to click the button and download the video to your computer, and you won't ever have to worry about if Vimeo goes out of business or YouTube goes out of business or any of those things make it hard for you to get your video. You will have it on your hard drive as well as access to it in our portal. So y'all don't delay, get in on that today, because once we finish editing it, it will definitely not be $49. It's probably going to be $199. Okay. All right. Well, that's everything I have for y'all today. If I don't see, I'm going to check the comments one more time. I don't see any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. Y'all take care and be blessed. Oh, by the way, if you are listening to this as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I encourage you to join us every Thursday night until we change the day. I keep saying that. But right now, the classes are on Thursday. So I encourage you to join us Thursday nights, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, where our first Thursday is money questions. Our second Thursday is seven-figure business building. Our third Thursdays is real estate. And our fourth Thursdays is our empowered entrepreneur. And I think this month we have a fifth Thursday. Do we have a fifth Thursday this month? Yeah, we have a fifth Thursday this month. Guess what? There will not be a class that fifth Thursday because I will be watching my baby boy perform. So we're going to have a replay. So if you have an idea of what you want me to replay, go ahead and send it to me in the chat. I mean, not in the chat, in a PM. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close out. You can find me on social media at JJ Knows the Way. The only reason I can say I know the way is because I know the one who is the way. And if you would like to have a relationship with him, talk to me today. I tell you what, I love the Lord and I love what I do. I love serving you. Take care and be blessed.